Well, let's speak now to former senior lecturer in Russian politics at Keele University in the UK, Matthew Wyman. Thanks so much for your time. We're speaking to you, of course, on the back of that telephone call between the two presidents, but I'd like to take a deeper look at their relationship. I mean, how close do you think these two men actually are?
Well, Trump clearly admires Putin very much. I think Trump would really like to have a political system which operated in the similar kind of way to Putin, where his opponents just disappear and there's no meaningful obstruction to him doing what he wants. In reverse, Putin clearly sees in Trump an opportunity to achieve what's been his main aim for what's been the Russians' main aim actually for many decades, going back to the Soviet Union, which is to divide the West, to divide America from Europe. So I think rather than a personal relationship, Putin's concentrating on the geopolitical opportunities here.
You say that Trump admires Putin, but, I've even heard that he'd been left waiting an hour for that telephone call. So Putin really coming across as the strong man in that relationship. But is that not somewhat surprising on the part of Donald Trump?
I don't. I think this is consistent with Trump's behaviour towards Putin up to this point. He seems, if we go all the way back to the famous Helsinki meeting where Trump announced that he believed what Putin had said rather than believing what his own intelligence services had been saying. So I don't think it doesn't seem to me that we should be surprised by anything here. There's no real change in the relationship.
Not between Trump and Putin, perhaps, but potentially between the United States and Russia. I mean, under Donald Trump, has that not done a 180?
There are certainly signs of change. Clearly, the relations under the Biden administration couldn't have been lower. I think at one point, Biden compared Putin's behaviour to that of Hamas. So whereas clearly Trump is prepared to end Russia's pariah status and sees various opportunities in that, in terms of after an end of sanctions, reintegrating Russia into the world economy and the opportunities that gives for American business, regardless of the consequences for Ukraine.
And turning back to look at the potential motivations for Donald Trump, apart from, admiring perhaps Putin, are there other elements at play? I've read that Trump's failing businesses in the past were saved by Russian businessmen. Tell us a bit more maybe about the other motivations.
This is all very mysterious. We certainly know that Trump received loans which originated in banks in Russia, and of course, around the time of the first Trump presidency, there was this mysterious dossier which made all sorts of suggestions about possible compromat and possible damaging information that was held by the Kremlin. Of course, all that's rumor, and we don't actually have the hard evidence for that. But whereas it's very clear that in these negotiations, whereas Trump has clearly been demanding enormous concessions from Ukraine and from President Zelensky, he doesn't seem to have been demanding anything from Putin so far.
Indeed, it does seem curious, the difference in that. And, again, it's only rumour, but a lot of questions were raised as to, the influence of Russia on those US elections. Maybe does Putin have something to hold over Trump, has often been speculated about. Looking at, the outcome of their relationship, do you think Russia will succeed then in maybe splitting the West further?
I suppose it depends on how Trump, on the reception that Trump gets to this particular this particular development, because clearly Putin was setting out a wholly unrealistic set of demands, according to what the Kremlin, as your report said, what the Kremlin announced after the after this call. So Putin demanding that all Western military assistance, all intelligence sharing with Ukraine stopping, Ukraine not being allowed to rearm itself or remilitarize. So essentially, Putin demanding that Ukraine leave itself defenseless. Now, you know, but Trump seemed to be yesterday portraying what he'd achieved as progress, i.e., you know, an ice hockey match between Russia and the United States, and an end to attacks on the energy infrastructure in spring, by the way, when the issue's much less important. So really, we if Trump now decides that the ball is back in Zelensky's court and really wants to demand more concessions from Ukraine, then the mission's achieved, isn't it? Because European heads of government are clearly absolutely not going to accept the demands that Putin's making on Ukraine.
Indeed. Matthew Wyman of Keele University in UK, thanks so much for taking time out to speak to us here on France 24. Very much appreciated.